time for the shout-out. Who was the first U.S. Vice President? If you think you know it, shout it out. Was it John Adams, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, or Aaron Burr? You've got 3 seconds. Go! Before he became president, John Adams served as the country's first VP. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
Okay, imagine, if you will, John McCain becomes president but has Barack Obama as his vice president. Or Barack Obama gets in the White House but has John McCain as VP. Well, back in the day, that could have happened. In the case of John Adams, he didn't actually run for VP. He lost the country's first presidential election to George Washington. Back then, the candidate who came in second became the vice president. That position, vice president, is often described as being a heartbeat away from the presidency. But assuming that heartbeat never happens, what in the world does a VP actually do?
See if you can ID this guy. His address is number 1 Observatory Circle, Washington, D.C. He worked as defense secretary under President George H.W. Bush, the current president's father, and oh yeah, he's our vice president. Believe it or not, many Americans can't identify Dick Cheney. That was an easy one for me, but before I wrote this report, I was not familiar with John Nance Garner, Alvin W. Barkley, Henry A. Wallace, or Charles Curtis, all of whom served as U.S. vice presidents. And what may be even less well known is what exactly a vice president does. You have come to the right place, my friends. First and most obvious, the vice president is number 2 in line to the presidency. That means if anything happens to the president and he's unable to do his job, the VP steps in as the nation's leader. The VP also has an interesting power in the U.S. Senate. If there's ever a deadlock over a certain issue, and that's not hard to imagine given the 49 Democrats and 49 Republicans currently in the Senate, the VP casts the tie-breaking vote. He's on hand during cabinet meetings. Vice President Cheney is listed as a cabinet rank member alongside the White House Chief of Staff. The VP also represents the president on Capitol Hill and carries out his special assignments. But as far as many Americans see it, the job of VP is not a particularly popular one. An author named Mark Hatfield, who wrote a book on vice presidents, described the position as the least understood, most ridiculed, and most often ignored constitutional office in the federal government. Who would want that? And though former vice presidents range from a fugitive to a Confederate soldier to a Nobel Prize winner, there's one thing most of them have in common. They're politically experienced, politically ambitious, or both. You'd have to be to work as second in command to the commander-in-chief.
The candidates currently vying for the vice presidential position are scheduled to face off tonight in the one and only debate between Governor Sarah Palin and Senator Joe Biden. It gets started at 9 p.m. Eastern, but before you tune in, head to our homepage and check out our debates viewing guide. It'll help you understand what's going on. All right, we have some new information now in the mystery surrounding the disappearance of millionaire adventurer Steve Fawcett.